what are we talking about today? Best practices of designing the RESTful APIs. Hey, APIs we are developing for a long time, yeah? So what is there in the best practice here, you know? All right, as part of doing that, let's take a look at Amazon. So Amazon is there, and I'm going to call it Zomazon. So as we look at this API, so I can see here, I can search the product. Let's say bike. So I want to search for a bike. So I'm searching for the bike, and now I can see, let me make it a little bigger here. I can see the bike. I can go to the bike. And now, as you can see here, it is giving me different colors of that same bike. Not only that, if I go down, it's giving me the description. Oh, what do I need along with the bike? I need other gears. Here, lock. Hey, it's a very expensive bike. You need to put a lock there. You need to, so this is where the cross-sell and upsell comes. So when you're working with your company, you need to do cross-sell and upsell. And how do we do that? Now this is, what is all this? This is all linked data. This is all linked data, JSON LD. Behind the scene, it's all JSON LD. That's what we are trying to build here. Now it's giving me the video confirmation, giving me some other information. Oh, it's also giving me, if you want to buy another bike, what are the feature comparison between them? And at the end, there are reviews done, question and answers and reviews at the end. You look at it, you look at the reviews, and then you buy some product. Yeah, that's pretty much the model which we got when we were working on it. So whenever we log in, they also give recommendation service for us. Now, when we think about any API development, any API design and development aspect of it, one thing you have to keep in mind is, hey, I'm starting from here. So let's talk about the journey. Customer is starting from here. See, it's moving from logging in. When I'm logging in, what am I trying to do? I want to buy some product based on the coupon I got. I bought the product. It's going to the inventory. There is a stock inventory is there. It's going to the supplier. Now the supplier is going to find out like whether it is available or not. Yeah, and then after that, logistic department. Can you tell me in one word, can I use HTTP and do this whole in one transaction? Can anybody do that? It's not possible to do it. And that is what one of the challenges which we face in today's journey, in the API journey when we are trying to create it. So as part of the journey, our job and your job is what? Customer satisfaction. What is your job? To get more money for your company. Yes, that's what the main thing is. How can we do it? Because all the activities which you used to do distributed transaction, that has changed the way we used to do it. So we will be discussing more in detail on that aspect. So that's what the premise for today is as part of the discussion. Now, if you see this diagram, so what's really happening is whenever I'm logging in from the network, so this is where the login starts. So I start the logging in here. And the first thing what happens, you're going to get a coupon saying that, hey, there's a campaign going on. Anybody know there is a Mother's Day coming? Yeah? You guys are ready for presents for your mother? Yeah? Or Father's Day is coming, Mother's Day is coming, Christmas is coming. So there's a campaign you're trying to run. Based on that campaign, now you're generating leads. Hey, who all can buy my products? Based on the lead, now you are trying to create an order for that lead. You see, what's really happening? You're changing your context going from one application to another application. See, this is what happens just now. So this is not the same application. The marketing is a separate application and CRM is a separate application. Now you generated the order. So what's happening in the order? Now you're sending it to the ERP solution and then saying the order management for it. So order management needs to take place here, and then the billing. You need to do the billing. You need to troubleshoot. The product is all working fine. And you need to do analytics on top of it. Analyze all the data which is coming through in the inventory and other places. Now, tell me, is this your company? Just say yes, very boldly, yes. Is that true? Say aye, yes. Yeah. So that's what your company looks like. And you need to design an API as an architect for this solution. That's our goal for today. Yeah. In the next, you can call it 50 more minutes. That's what the goal is. So what we're going to do is, what happens is you want to make sure that you expose the APIs. This is a layered architecture approach where we are trying to create APIs, foundational APIs first. Based on the foundational API, this is from MuleSoft. But other also follow the similar model where you're trying to create some APIs, account and customer. Based on the account and customer, how the customer is going to use, make it customer friendly. And there was some questions asked like, payment gateway. Somebody was developing a payment gateway and providing a solution. I don't know who that gentleman was, but I remember yesterday. And their problem was that, hey, I'm getting the data from 3 different systems. So his problem was, I'll define the problem because make it much easier. You're getting the data from CRM, financial systems, inventory system, and then getting all this data, and from the supply chain, you're getting all this data because you want to do the payment gateway, because the product is payment gateway you're trying to deliver here. How to make sure you design your system which can do that? So does that make sense? So that's where the business API comes in. So where you create the business API on top of the root APIs, which is delivered by CRM and other solutions, and then build on top of it. Does that make sense? Yeah? So that's what we're calling it as a business API. Now you are having a mobile device. So in the mobile device, somebody wants to build a new Uber app. Somebody wants to just combine Uber, Lyft, Ola, and ground transportation and create a mesh app. Can you do that? That is your experience application. So that's the challenge which we are trying to face here. Like, how can I create this API? And I talked about more in this last time, but I just want to quickly chat on the Gardner's approach. How do we take a look at the Gardner's approach? Something fundamental to understand. Gardner looks at from the persona based. Who is your persona? What is a persona, anybody? What is a persona? Huh? User. User of what? User who's going to buy the product, yes? Use the product, yes. Use the product, buy the product. That's what is very important. That means you are satisfying both the external user as well as internal users. So both of them you have to satisfy as based on the situation. You have to create those scenarios, and based on those scenarios, you need to solve this problem. So let's take a look at an example on what kind of problem you're going to face when you have this kind of solution is coming up for you. Let me just make it a little bigger here for you guys to see. So you are an architect. You're designing an e-commerce solution. As part of the internal solution, you want to do the internal, external personas, and you want to make sure the capabilities are all defined. That means open API specification. You want to build that open specification. So we talked about, so what to do, you can go in detail. It will be all there in the slides for you to look at it later on. But the perspective here is usability of the user. How we are using the system. Is it a mobile device you're using? Or you're combining the APIs. You're aggregating the APIs and then you're using it. So that's what we will be discussing more as we go. So that said, now what we are really looking for is, if somebody asks me a question like, API needs to be there, but I have an old application. How do I convert an old application to a new application? So that's a problem which we always face. If you want to know more about that, I have another session coming in here with the MDM strategy, master data management strategy with data quality. I'll talk about much more details on that one. But the important thing to understand here is you want to create ideal design. I just emphasize only on this part, ideal design. How can you create an ideal design, and then even if you have an old application, you're still calling the old application the big system is still called. That's the premise which we have got. That's the challenge which we got to solve today. So as part of this challenge, one thing we need to do is, hey, we all know the order needs to be created. Yeah. So in order for order to be created, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go to schema.org. So just pick like any random, object. I went to schema.org. So if you have been asked by a product owner to use the schema to find out for order, you have to add new attributes to it. Where would you go? You go to schema.org. That's what I'm trying to refer to. If you go to schema.org, it's going to give you all the attributes which it might have, including some of the JSON LD formats. So if you want to copy and paste some of the JSON LD formats, instead of redesigning from scratch, this is the great place to come and find out this information. So it gives you different formats. That means linked data. So I have an order. Order will have order item. Yeah, order line items will be there. Within an order line item, we'll have products. within products which can be from a multiple vendor. So if I go to Amazon.com, let's say, if I go to Amazon.com, is it possible if I go to Amazon.com, I'm asking for a product and there are multiple vendors supporting that product? Yes? No? How does Amazon know which vendor should I use behind the scene? Anyone? Vendor rating, yeah, it could be one thing, yeah. What else? Huh? Price, distance, yeah. That could be another thing which is there. So, but Amazon has to satisfy who? Vendors, yeah. Just like Uber, you know. Uber is going to give one driver most of the rides. Is that a good thing? A good thing for Uber, like, you know, they want to use one person 16 hours, but what they do is they have an algorithm which actually round the robin, they're trying to pick the correct vendor for you. So that's where the vendor management also comes in. So I'm trying to put some real world scenarios so you understand what's going on here behind the scene. So another thing is like looking at from the, what is the best in class from the OData perspective. In that case, the OData is something which is, I suggest you guys should look at. I actually went a lot more in detail in my previous talk, so you should see the recording for this. So OData is an ecosystem. So if you consider, hey, should I use OData or GraphQL? So this is an industry standard being used from years now, you know. And then if you are trying to build a client, which is a C# client or a Java client or any client, and if you have a SAP to interface with, Salesforce to interface with, Microsoft to interface with, or SharePoint to interface with, what is the standard for that? This is the standard to use. So that's the reason. So who all are using it? Let's take a look at it here quickly. So who all are using it? So I mean, this is used by a lot of producers. See this? Condit, IBM. So if any IBM product, we have got, I mean, it is supporting all of them. SAP Gateway. So now what it is providing us, and I'll go brief here, because we need to sync on other things also. But what it is providing me is something like this. It's providing me a context, which is a context of, you see, order has order line items, order detail we can call it here. An order line item has products. One product is associated, one or more products are there in one order line item. Can be there. There is a shipper which is associated with it. Now, what does this looks like to you? What does this looks like? Third normal form, yes? This is the database diagram. But database diagram which is more understandable as an industry standard across different industries be able to work on it, yes? So that is the advantage of using OData, using this format, where you don't have to start from scratch and you get some format to work with. Not only that, now you can search on that data without running a single line of code. You can also do that because products provides it. So let me create my UI for this, okay? So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say that, okay, top select, I want to select here customers. I say, okay, give me the my top customers. So now it's retrieving me and giving me all the top customers. So let me pick one of the customer from here, owner, okay. Let me find out what are the different orders. So what is this when I clicked on that, what is that? Anyone? That's the linked data, yeah. So what are the things I can do after I get the API? What all things I can do here? I can find out, okay, for this product, give me order details for this product. Yeah. Now it's retrieving and getting me the order details for that particular product and find out which product I'm talking to. And for this particular product, now give me the suppliers who is getting that product. So you see, I am able to create all the products, not only come to that particular product, but I can find out for this supplier which other products they sell. See? So I can say this supplier is selling 2 products here. In this case, I can look at it. Not only that, you can also add a where clause. Or you can say, hey, instead of address, you can say city. I want to find out for a given city, and let's say pick a city in London. So now I got the products which are within London, and I'm able to get that. So what is this? This is my query parameters. So this is all my query parameters. So I did the query parameters here. So what am I doing here? I'm adding to the query parameters and be able to create that. So that is another great way of connecting and using the system using this particular model. Yep. So you can go through the assignment on this later on, but basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to explore, what I'm saying here is you go through this exercise and explore your APIs, using OData. That's what I'm trying to say here. Another part is like, hey, when I'm trying to create the APIs, would you like to use a standard format for creating, for example, sales or service objects? Anyone? Yeah? If your product manager comes in and says that, hey, I need to add a sales object. I need to add a sales object. How do I do that sales object creation? What you can do is you can use, and this is a common data model is there. There's something called as a common data model. So this is an assignment for the common data model. So what you can do is you can go into the Microsoft Common Data Model is there. You can search online on this one. This assignment actually tells you where to go and go to that particular information. So in this one, there is a GitHub repository. So I'm going to go to the GitHub repository just to give you an understanding what's going on here. Now I can go in detail. Anybody from banking here? Banking industry, yep. So if you guys are in the banking industry, what's really going on in the banking industry? If I need to find that thing out, I can actually dive into the banking industry. Within the banking industry, what are the objects? So tell me what are the objects in the banking industry? Account, leads, business checking account, yeah. And the collateral could be there. Bank information is there. What are the things for the bank information? Looks like. What are the standards for that? So now I'm giving you standard what fields you should have. Why I'm telling you this is because now think about bank mergers, yes? Bank are merging. If two banks are merging, if they're using the standards, would that be beneficial? Yes? So this will actually give you a good understanding. Not only that, it will give you a definition of the API. How the API should look like with the linked data. So is that a good thing? Yeah, you're going to get that all information. So I just looked at one of the formats for us to look at, for example, sales. I want to know sales, what objects are there in sales? Yeah, what are the different objects which are there in sales? So in this case, I can say knowledge management. Hey, so what is knowledge management for? Anyone? Knowledge articles. If somebody has a query, without they asking customer service, I should be able to find that information, yes? What API should you use for that? That's my question to you. What API should you use? What entity you should use? That's what we are telling here. Make sense? So you will be able to go in much more detail. I don't want to spend time here because that's not the main focus for us. But you got the idea behind how to do this thing. Another part which is very, very important as an architect, as you are creating the API, find out where are the flaws, where are the faults of that API. For example, if a driver is asking for a passenger, what happens if the driver is asking for a passenger and this is the building? See, think about this. This is a building. Okay, this is the entrance of the buildings. This is one entrance, second entrance, third entrance, and fourth entrance. Yeah. Now I am located somewhere here. When the Google Maps came along, that was a problem. And we say that, hey, I want to get this ride, and the driver is somewhere here waiting for us. And we are waiting right here. Hey, take me right here. And is it happened with you? Like, hey, I'm here and you are there. Where are you? Come here. This happens, yes? All the time. What is that? What is that? Exception. What is that? An exception. What is that? A problem in your APIs, in your business model. What we are looking for is problem in your business model. Okay? Once you define the problem, what are you going to do? How you fix this problem? How Ola fixed this? How Uber fixed this problem? Anyone? Huh? Access points. So they created access. Are access points in Google? No. They are not there in Google. They are there in their database. So what they're trying to create is supply and demand. Supply and demand, they're trying to manufacture using that. So that's what you're trying to create. So go back to your, now you go back to your office. And your best friend is, who's your best friend? Production support people. They'll love you. They will love you to fix these issues. Because how many here are in the production support calls trying to fix something which happened in US, and you don't have any person to talk to, you're trying to figure out what to do. Yeah? You face this problem, yes? So that's another thing which we need to fix. And that's why you add a facade, create this design using the anti-corruption layer, you can do that. Create the bounded context. Hey, you want to create the bounded context between the sales and support and other information. And now we're going to start doing the designing of the APIs. So what are the things which are there in the designing of the API? The important thing to understand is where I am storing the data. Data-centric modeling. That's important. How I am storing the data. That's another thing which is important for us to know. You need to implement open specification. And we will talk about in much more detail what that means. That means that how many here are doing validation in the API saying that, hey, this field should be 20 characters long. How many here are doing that? Yes? We are all doing that. We are writing code for it, yes? To doing that. I'll tell you a way where you don't need to write a single line of code. You know, because you don't want to spend time in just writing the code and implementing that solution. How many here know about heart bleed attack? Heart bleed attack. So what is heart bleed means? Heart is bleeding, you know. What that means is that, somebody asked for an API, and by the way, this was a bank, 6 years ago. They asked for some information from the bank. They got that information from the bank. But while getting the information, they guessed what other parameters should be there in the memory address. Or they can also guess what could PII data could be there within it. So that's what you get out of this. Proper error handling needs to be there and other things here. So we'll talk about each one of them in much more detail. So what happens, RESTful API? So /ship, like you're putting in 1, 2, 3. This is the endpoint which you're using in this case. Now what is wrong in this? This is RESTful. This is good. This is the correct endpoint to use. But 1, 2, 3, what is wrong in 1, 2, 3? The ID is 1, 2, 3. What is wrong in there? Anyone? Huh? Sequential. That's the problem. So what do we need to do? Huh? Randomize UUID. Yeah? You need a way of not anybody be able to guess what the next number is. But you would be able to do the any association based on that. And norms are good. For create users is not good. Don't create an API with create users. Instant post /users. Okay? Get user data, update user, delete user. So that's what they're saying is that authenticate user, you can use auth token to do that. Yeah? Get the products and add to the cart ID. So that's another thing which you can do to use it. So identifier, you can add slashes to add to it and then be able to do that. Now the problem is how long can you go down? How deep can you go? That's another question. You can stop them to going more deeper than, let's say, 5. You can put it in the open specification. You can't go more than 5 level deep. Some people do that. Some people are crazy, the way they're using the system. And the URL size is limited. What is the URL size? 3,000 characters. Is no more than that, yeah? Let's say for you, I think 1,500 characters is good enough, to use. So we all know, like, get customers, get the list of customers is a good way to do that. Now, one thing important here is update batch. How do we implement update batch? Anyone? That means I'm adding the customers. I'm adding more customers. How do I implement it? Anyone? When I'm adding more customers, let's say somebody is saying that, hey, update batch. And this is something very important to understand, guys. That's why I'm spending time here, okay? Somebody is saying that update 100. So now you can update the 100. There's no problem about it, yeah? But if somebody say that, update 50K, or they say, I want to update 100K, would you be able to do it? Is it advisable to do it? No. But do you have to do it? Yes. How do you do it? Huh? Small chunks, yeah? But small chunks, you need to design that. Yeah? So that's something you need to implement a solution where you're designing for the small chunk, even if they're sending million objects at the same time. We should be able to, call that particular function and be able to use that. Same thing is true with, like, whenever we are trying to get a particular item, we should be able to get the item. And return values is also the same kind of values are there, where you're sending the status code, either status code or the list of items which are there, you want to return a list of objects for you. Now, this is something good thing to understand, like, which one to use where. So now somebody asked me a question like, hey, I have a scenario. Let me give you the scenario which somebody asked me yesterday, okay? So this scenario is something like this. Someone is trying to call, and this was the exact scenario, okay? So I'm calling from here. I'm calling this API. This is my RESTful API. This is now calling 4 systems behind the scene, okay? It's calling 4 systems behind the scene. These systems are now going to process the data and return me the values. And the person, like, the problem is that it's taking more time to return the values. What do I do? What pattern should I apply? Huh? 5xs is there, but you have to solve this problem. I'm giving you to solve the problem. I mean, you can't say 5xs. Like, yes, I understand. That we should do that. Yes. But I need to solve this problem. Somebody is saying that, hey, I want to save this data. It needs to save in all these places. What can I do? What can I do from the design perspective? This is the REST API. What did you say? Okay, what describe me? Asynchronously you do. So what he's saying is do 202. Okay? 202 means like we have accepted your request. Now we are working on that particular request. Okay? So that's an important thing to keep in mind when we are working on it. So another thing which is important is like, hey, what kind of other codes are there which are a little bit important for you to understand? So I'm going to go in. So I'm going to go into the assignment first, because let me show you the assignment first. So this is your assignment. But you guys can do it on your own, but I'm going to just show you what things we are looking for here. So if you look into this assignment, we want to find out different capabilities which are there. So 201 is you created an object, 400s are there here, and then object not found, or 500 if there is an internal server errors are there. You cannot process the request. If you can't process the request, that's what comes on in this one. So what does that mean? What does that mean? That when we are using these formats, we need to protect ourselves using these particular formats. Okay. Now, how do we send the results out? Using the JSON LD formats, which is like XML or JSON format, which we are trying to use in this case. Now, there are multiple types of formats can be there. URL encoded format, JSON format or XML formats. All these formats are basically just a MIME type, which you are just sending in this case. Okay, JSON LD, we already looked at JSON LD a lot. So everybody here are familiar with JSON LD, yes? Yeah? So to an extent, so linked, it's basically a linked data which we are trying to use in this case. So I'm going a little fast, so I will show you some other examples. So this is an assignment for error handling. If you have an error handling, what things you need to consider when you are doing an error handling? So the things which we need to consider is define all the errors, and then basically if you get an error, make sure you log those errors. That's very important, okay? What does that mean when I say log those errors? Anyone? That means if you have 100,000 customers, they need to have a different directory for each of those customers. That means you need to create a prefix for the customer tenant ID and then be able to do the logs for those tenant ID. So all the logs are consolidated in one place when you are trying to build that particular solution. You can go over the other things. But then you should also be able to find out, hey, they should be able to get some link like this. So this is the Twilio example. It's a 2003 is the error message. It's saying lack of permission to do authentication error is there. What are the possible causes for the error message? So now it becomes like a single page I need to go in and find out that information. Yeah. So now any error comes, the user is going to first look at that error and then try to implement that solution. So you need to give a verbose error implementation wise, and it can be of multiple formats, can be there. Now let's take a look at integration challenges. So why I'm talking about challenges, because we all face challenges in integration, yeah? And tell me, what kind of challenges have you faced in integration? Anyone? The first challenge which sometimes we face is the date and date format. So anybody here faced challenge in the date formats? So what you should do, how we store the date? Huh? Yeah, it needs to be stored in the GMT time, 8601. Yeah. So I18N is important. 8601 is a standard to use to really store the data. So all the dates needs to be stored in this format. Why I'm telling you? Because two systems storing in different formats, it becomes very tough, like what the data is and how it is using it. Yeah. And the problem comes in whenever there's a daylight saving, things like that. Those problems you're not going to face. If you're supporting the language, what are the language codes? ISO format for that, currency format for that. So this is an important thing to understand. What are the different formats and how do we store the dates? So I gave an actual assignment and I'll just show you which formats are there in each one of them. So what that means, you use I18N standards or any of these standards. For example, you can have a decimal format standard can be there. Country code standards are also there. Country code can also be there in two different formats, ISO 2 and ISO 3. So country code 2, country code 3. City is the same thing, country code 2 and country code 3 is there. So you need to implement them correctly, because if you are doing integrations, you are bound to face problems otherwise. Make sense? Yeah. So that's something I suggest everyone to do. Now this is a site which is useful. Let me go into that site. So this is like, if you go into this site, this will actually give you international, all the currency codes and other sites. So this is there as a reference for you to look at all the sites with two different formats for the currency. All right? Now, lack of documentation of data structure. So that's where we can use open data format, OData format you can use for this purpose. Now, handling null and missing data. This is a major problem. In any integration you're trying to do, this is going to be your API problem where the data is not clean. So you need to know what is the clean data looks like. What is the clean data looks like? Anybody here has problem with clean data? Yeah? So if you don't have a problem, that means that's a good system. Yeah? But normally you have problem with the clean data when you're working on it. These are just time zone values. Okay, so duplicate records can be there in CRM, logistics, and billing systems. How do we integrate with those systems? That means record matching. So when you're doing it, you need to implement record matching logic. You need to implement a merge logic also. That means duplicate data will be created. You need to implement a merge logic. So why I'm talking about it? That's another REST API you need to create. All right, which is called a merging of the two data. You need to do when you're creating it. So throttling is also very important. That means a VIP customer should get VIP treatment. Yeah, that means they can do 1 million requests. A trial customer should not get the same thing. So you need to implement the throttling of the API also based on this model. Okay. So API integration challenge is there. You're working as a software engineer in a large retail company, and your team has been tasked to integrate two different systems for the inventory management and order management system. First system is a proprietary data. See this, same problem we solved before. Proprietary data, while the second system follows the industry standard format. Your job is to map the data between the two systems. This is a very typical example you're going to face when you're actually implementing the solution. So what you're trying to do here is, you can go over the formats and other things, but the perspective here is, hey, if you're using a financial management system, you need to make sure that key systems you are integrating with. Financial management system, there is the FMS system is there. There is a standard for it. Okay? Human resource management system, there is a standard for that. What is the financial management system standard? FIX format. That's the format for the financial management system. And then CRM formats is a CDI format is there. Customer data integration CDI standard is there you need to use. So why I'm talking about this is because these are the formats. So this is something called as canonical data model. Anyone can explain you what that means? Canonical data model? Canonical data model is a model which is accepted by or you create in an order. Order has order line items, and then they have products and things like that. This, you can build a canonical data model. Now that is accepted by all the integration partners. So I have a SAP partner is there. Now why that is important? Anyone? Why is it important for that purpose? Why I'm talking about it a lot? Huh? Avoid the random coding, yeah? Vendor lock-in, yes. So because you are implementing this, I can go from one ERP to another ERP solution. Yeah. If you don't do that, you are actually tied up to that solution. So that's one of the important things you have to consider when you are building it. All right. So that's another challenge which is there. Now, when I'm trying to design the integrations, this is what happens. So what's happening is that now I have a customer who's logging in to the B2C account. When they're logging into the B2C account, they need to get the data from the ERP and the CRM solution and provide them the product they're looking for. Now what happens? You can build a stateless application and you can build a stateful application. Yep. And stateless has all good things in it. Stateful has all bad things in it. You see, I don't want to even read this, yeah? But should we build stateless application then? Yes. But tell me an application which is stateless, which is really doing something. Is it possible? You need to build a cart. Yeah? What do you do in Amazon? You build a cart, you put the products there. After you put the products, then you go and talk to your spouse. And they say that no, then you remove it, yes? Or they say yes, then you buy it, yes? Sometimes you have to talk to different people. So where is that information stored? Anyone? So you can, you can go through this, but where is that information stored? In the distributed database, you need to store it. Or you need to store it in a cache. You need to store it in the cache format to really support that. So that's the reason that is an important thing to understand. So you have to store this data. Even if you're building a stateless application, whenever another request comes from the same user, it is going to a different server, different part altogether. But the information is stored in the cache or in the database. It's better stored in the database. So that way you can come back to that same session again or get that information. Now, what really happens is, this is the onboarding process of a customer. Why I'm talking about it? Because this actually tells you the problem. So what's happening is that whenever you're trying to build something, you're not going to ask for that customer initially what their credit card information is. Nobody asks, yes? They said, I do. Yes, that's the first thing, you are able to get the data. Now you want to get the banking information. Is it a fraud or not? So fraud detection, do you need to run before? Probably not. Like, you need to do certain aspects of it. But that fraud detection you need to add as soon as you're coming to accounting. Yes? So anybody here has to support guest checkouts. Guest checkout. Lot of sites do that, yeah? So in the guest checkouts, what is the important thing you have to keep in mind? Yeah? You have an email ID for that user, but they are doing a guest checkout. So that's a problem. So anybody can hack you. So you need an ability to capture. In that case, you need to use a captcha or multi-factor. You can't even use multi-factor because it's a guest checkout. You have to use a captcha or some other way to solve that problem. So you're going to face these problems where I just want to describe the problem to you guys so you know, in the real world what happens. Not only that, what happens in different applications have different data in it. You have to combine that data into a master data format, which is used by multiple systems. Arizona abbreviation, or you're using postal code. What that looks like, what's the standard you're using. You have to convert that into the right standard. Yeah, so that is another exercise you do, and then create a master data out of it. Now let's look at API security. So API security is very important. From my perspective, this is the most important thing we need to look at. From API security perspective, OWASP top 10 is there, but API OWASP top 10 is also there. So in order to understand that, we are going to go into OWASP top 10 for us to look at. Okay, so this is the OWASP top 10. If you Google it, you can actually go into this site. Now in this one, what they are trying to describe is what are the different ways people can actually get the data and exploit the data. That's the main thing they are trying to get the information from here. So what that means, so you can actually download the PDF file and get the information, which will give you the risk for each one of them, and able to look at it in more detail. So let's take a look at each one of these in more way of looking at it. So broken object level authentication. So object level authentication is needed. For example, if I'm doing a shop, /shop is there, shop name is there, I'm using it. Now I can change that object and put another object there. And then see cart, can I do cart? Can I do admin? So those things you can do on top of it, and that's something you have to protect yourself from. Another thing, anybody using wearable devices, one of the problem which comes in is HTTP patch request comes in. Like, in the header, you have the user ID. UID is showing up in that case, or some other information is showing up. So now if you're doing a two-string operation on this, that's not good. So what's happening is that there is an authentication checklist. You can go through that on your own. But you're trying to send SMS token with 6 digits to the victim's code. That is being sent. Now you are vulnerable to that. Now once you get this SMS token, verification token is being used to now perform other operations on top of it. Yeah. So that's one thing which is there. So this is a problem. How many times somebody is trying to get the SMS token? You can rate limit them. Hey, you can't ask for more than 5 per hour or something like that. So that is one way to kind of protect your data. So implement the authorization strategy. Multi-factor authentication, MFA, is a good way to do that. Another is that mechanism to check if the logged in user has access to the action here they're trying to perform, which they are trying to OAuth. You can use OAuth for that. And GUID, we talked about how do we do the GUID generation, and the CAPTCHA. So CAPTCHA is another way of saying that weak passwords are there. You do the CAPTCHA along with that. So that is another way, say this is not a machine generated password going in. Excessive data exposure. So you are able to expose more data than needed. For example, if you are putting a comment, someone is putting a comment in the structure, someone can sniff that data. If it's a PII data, you need to identify that PII data and then protect yourself. That's very, very important. And I'll talk about PII data in a few minutes. How to prevent it? That's the question. Never rely on the client side for sensitive data filtering. Very important. Don't rely on the client side. So that means if you're doing anything on the client side, don't even send to the client side when you're working on it. All the responses should be legitimate responses. That means you need to give a sample response in the open specification. I'll talk about that in 5 minutes, like what that looks like. We'll go in more detail on that one. Don't use two JSON or two string. If you do that, that means you are actually not really, anybody can see that data. Social security number, they can see things like that. And of course, you need to prevent anyone to use that particular data. Now, what happens in terms of rate limiting? Now, rate limiting is not only how many times you called. Yeah? What else can be rate limiting? From API perspective, anyone? Huh? How long you hit it? Yeah? That could be one thing. Yeah? What else? Frequency, yeah? That's also like number of times, yeah. What else? Huh? Specific client ID is calling more amount of time, yeah? Yeah. So think about it, rate limiting is not just that, it's also how much memory they are using. Yeah? If you have an API which is now processing the data behind the scene, how do you protect yourself with number of descriptor, number of processes they are using, number of uploads they are trying to do? So you need to come up with your own KPIs based on which, like, hey, you can only process one of that request at a time. So another thing is, this is a scenario. Now this is the REST API. You are getting one kind of format. This is, by the way, exactly what happens in Instagram or any site. You upload a video. That video is uploaded in different formats, in a mobile format, and also uploaded also in a different high screen definition format and lower screen definition format. When you're processing the data, this might take a long time to process. So in order to do the post of the images, you need to look at how much available memory you have and only perform that much operation out of it. And then you also limit how much data can flow at any given time. Now, if you don't provide this size limit, they can put here the size to be 200,000. What happened in this case? It'll blow up, yeah? And by the way, you can protect yourself from doing this just by following the open specification properly. So that's a very easy fix, yeah? So we talked about a lot of things like, in this one, so I would not bother about this, and I'll talk about validations in a second. But the perspective is like, explore the different vulnerabilities. So you can have, REST security vulnerabilities there. So this is REST security vulnerability from OWASP. So I would suggest you to go through this on your own time, because it's basically JWT. It's telling, like, how do you need to use JWT, API keys, input validations. How do you do the input validation? Not only input validations, what else? Output validations. So you think the only input validation is enough? No. Output validation is more important than just input validation. So that's another thing which I suggest you to do. But this cheat sheet is there for you guys to look at it on your own. And then, of course, there is an assessment checklist. So when I say assessment checklist, like, hey, how is my API doing? That's what this is trying to define. Like, you pen test. How do you do the pen test of the REST API? What are the standards do you need to look when you're working on it? So that's what this one is for you to explore on your own. Now, this is another one I look at. Okay, so let's go to this. So there is an API which we are calling API security IO, API security.io. Okay, got 10 minutes, all right. So you need to look at that, and then you can actually download, and you can go over all the other ones on your own, but you can actually download a plugin, which is really good plugin. I suggest you can download it from 42 Crunch, same place. You can download that. Once you download it, what you can do is something like this. What you can do is you can actually run the report. Now this is a report which I have run. Its score is 23 out of 100. Why is it 23 out of 100? As you can see here, the string schema request has no pattern defined. Because there is no pattern defined. Now what happens is, like, somebody is putting in a string information. They can put in a string information with percentage or some other data and do injection attack from there, yeah? Now, just by applying that principle, various SQL injection attack is very easy afterwards. Now what you can do is just apply the pattern. So this is a pattern which I have applied right here. Let me make it a little bigger for you. So this is the pattern you are able to apply in this case. Very easy to apply. Same thing is true, like, is there schema not defined. So in this, the schema is not even defined. Hey, output is okay. No, that's not enough. Since this example is saying output is okay. But if you define the schema, just by defining the schema, it's a very simple task I'm telling you. If you define the schema, what happens? Now the responses, you have a responses for that pet. Yeah? So that's the advantage we have got. There is no upper bound limit and lower bound limit. So you can have you can have a limit to what you're trying to put in as an information. So possible attack can be 100,000, 200,000. So min value and the max value. Easy way of doing it. Now you're applying the min and max value here, saying you can min value is 0 and max value is 100. Yeah, very simple thing you can do. You can actually run this out on your own JSON. You go back and run this on your own JSON, and it's pretty easy to kind of look at this data. All right, guys. So as we are talking about, there are different ways of protecting yourself from these attacks which are going on across the network. Now, not only that, the important thing also is from API definition. I'm talking about it. When you're trying to generate the data, you transform the data. Is this transformation done correctly or not? The standards are followed. How are you storing the data? If it is a PII data, you need to encrypt that. Yeah? What kind of encryption you need to use for that? Either deterministic or probabilistic encryption. There are two kinds of encryptions are there. I'll talk more on that in my next talk. We can discuss a little bit more on that. But really, you should look at where you're destructing the data also when you're building it. So that's it, guys. So another thing from our side, I'm just going to skip few things here just to talk about important things. Okay. Another thing is, when you're working on your models, you need to do threat modeling. An important thing to understand. When we do threat modeling, what does that mean? When I say threat modeling, what it means is you can download the threat modeling from Microsoft site, right? What you can do is you can find out how it is getting called. From the UI screen, using the web application firewall, I'm calling the trading application, right? Once you find this information out, it will tell us like, hey, there might be a repudiation attack. There might be a tampering attack going on across the board. Once you know that this is what the attack is, now you can protect from that particular attack. So I actually did it purposefully, this information, calling directly from HTTP. Now it's saying it's a compliance issue. You need to fix it right away because now anybody can spoof the data. They can tamper the data also. So this is something I suggest you should do from security perspective when you're working on it. Now let's take a look at scalability. Scalability aspect, the important thing to understand is you can scale the data by just applying entity tags. E-tags is a good way to apply. That means you can apply these tags. So you're caching the data for some amount of time. That's what you can do. You can say that it's only valid for a certain amount of time. Everybody use that, yeah? So that's another way of implementing and be able to use this system. And you can also add pagination. How many here know about partial items? Anybody has partial items in their API? Anybody got? Yeah. So that is another issue which comes in. I have a customer API returning me all the stuff to me. No. You only return the data which is needed. Don't return the whole information. Very easy to implement. Search for partial items, and Google implements it. Many other people implement the same model. So I suggest you can use that. So instead of returning all the objects, I'm saying that, hey, add only title and other information. Now I have less bandwidth to cover. Not all the information is flowing through. Make sense? All right. So the next part is, from our perspective, is looking at the customer versioning. So versioning are of three main kinds, and I'll complete with that one. URI is v2/user. If somebody has a v1, v2/users, that is where the problem is. Like, you guys must be using it from 10-year-old, and you have to stuck to it. Yeah. The only problem is if you're using JSON LD, it will create problems to you because your client has to change. In case of content negotiation, it becomes much easier. So versioning of the JSON URI path is much easier. You can actually change the whole API structure behind the scene. Twitter did that. and Altacian did that. So all these people are doing it. So all the old applications, they're all using this model. The problem with that is a lot of client changes can happen. So what that means, let me go into the, so what happens in the Hypermedia? So I have this reference here. Another version came in. Another version came in. So I got so many versions to work with. So that's the advantage. We should try to avoid that. So better one I like is, GitHub move towards this model is content negotiation. So this is another thing I suggest. If you want to use, either use header to change the information. So that means there is no client change. Only changes in the header. And if the client changes the header, the information changes. Yeah. So based on that, you can add newer version, and only that version will be supporting that particular API model. So that's the advantage of using content negotiation or custom header. Microsoft use custom header, a way of implementing. So the advantage there is, hey, only custom header is getting changed. So there is some development value is needed when you're working on it. So that's it, guys. I think we talked a lot today. So we started with what? We started with our designing of the APIs. So I suggest do the design of the API, do the experience model, like where you're trying to build experience on top of the core API you're trying to build. Yeah, you remember like we talked about this? And that is the real way, like do the persona modeling, understand the pain points of the personas, and build on top of it. Create those scenarios, and then you create the ideal design. And then once the ideal design is created using OData, industry standards, we talked about a lot of industry standards. I suggest you to use those standards to build this API. OData is one of them. And another one we talked about is fail points. Identify the fail points and be able to support those fail points. So I hope you enjoy the session. And then we looked at scalability model and versioning at the end. So I hope you enjoy the session, and I'll be around here for any questions you guys have. Otherwise, I'll see you in another talk. Thank you, guys.